watching the News Hour at 9.
Very good evening. Thank you very much for joining us here on this special edition of the News Hour. I'm Tina Sharma Tiwari.
And I'm Niranjan Arnav. Will be back on the News Hour on Monday, but quick check on what you can expect in the next 2 hours. Debating tonight the interview that turned out to be the clincher, the proof that CBI has and is studying as evidence.
And also bringing to you all the details at 10 p.m. as we have kept you ahead throughout every step of the way in this particular murder case. We have been right all along from day one. We show you just how over the next couple of hours.
Well, the charge sheet filed by the CBI has completely nailed Peter's lie. Tonight on the News Hour, the one crucial statement that has exposed Peter Mukerjea like never before. It's one statement that was not out in the public domain in the past. It's out now. It's something that we've told you all along, and the plot was much bigger. It was not going to end with just Sheena Bora. Mikhail was also on the radar. And Megha Prasad joining us with details of the crucial statement of one man called Shamvar Rai. And it's explosive. Over to you, Megha.
Well, thanks, Niranjan. So what we have in our possession right now, of course, is something that hasn't been seen before. For the first time, Times Now will bring you the statement, and I'll make the camera just pan to the statement we are going to talk about now in the next few minutes. This is the statement, the additional statement of Shamvar Pinturam Rai, who is the driver, the former driver of Indrani, who now we know, of course, has turned an approver in the Sheena Bora case. Now, why is this statement important? The statement is important for one reason, and that is that all of this while all the evidences that were put forth by the CBI in this case went on to sort of suggest that Peter somehow knew about the plan post the murder. He knew about, perhaps was part of the destruction of evidences, tried to get Rahul off the track of Sheena, maybe knew things after the murder. But this is a conclusive evidence that I have in my hand that suggests that Peter Mukerjea was very much in the know of the fact that Sheena and Mikhail were to be murdered on 24th, and that he knew of the fact that a certain place had been decided by Indrani where she planned to dump both the bodies. I'm going to take you through the statement, which is it's written in Hindi, signed by the CBI officer. This particular statement, I'm going to read this out. It says, this is of course the statement that has been taken on 1st of April 2016. Statement again of the driver, former driver of Indrani, that is Shamvar Rai. He says in his statement before the CBI that आज पुनः मुझे पूछने पर यह कहना है कि दिनांक 23 अप्रैल 2012 को मैं मैडम को लेकर लोनावला पेन खोपोली रोड जिला रायगढ़ महाराष्ट्र मिखाइल बोरा एवं शीना बोरा को मारने के बाद उनके शव को उपरोक्त इलाके के सुनसान जगह पर दफनाने जलाने के उद्देश्य से जब स्थल का चयन करने मैडम इंद्रानी एवं मैं कर रहा था तो उस दरमियान मैडम ने 2 बार, जहां तक मुझे याद है, पीटर साहब से फोन पर बात करी, बोली कि गुड प्लेस तथा मिखाइल एवं शीना का नाम लेकर अंग्रेजी में बोल रही थी। मैं उस वक्त कार चला रहा था, मैडम पीछे बैठकर बात कर रही थी। पीटर साहब के अतिरिक्त मैडम इंद्रानी संजीव खन्ना इत्यादि से भी बातें इंग्लिश में कर रही थी. He goes on to say that I did not state about this particular aspect beforehand because I was not asked about it. The statement which I showed it to you, this is the statement in my hand, a 2-page statement of Shamvar Rai, and then it tells you all, Tina, now why we have reasons to believe that Peter knew about this even before Sheena was murdered.
Well, absolutely. And it was very clear from the start, Megha, that something wasn't quite adding up as far as Peter Mukerjea's involvement is concerned. And that was further revealed when Arnab conducted the interview with him. We will be revealing details of that also later. But just to reiterate, the 2 big points that come through from this statement of Shamvar Rai, which you have access to, big points. One, that Peter knew about the plot all along, right up to the point where the recce was being conducted for the site where the bodies would eventually be buried. And number 2, it was always supposed to be a double murder of both sister and brother, Mikhail as well as Sheena Bora.
That's right. That's absolutely right, Sheena. Two things like you mentioned, but I think the more important one right now, the very fact that Mikhail perhaps was also a part of the plan, that the plan was to kill him, I beg your pardon, yeah, of course, the plan was to kill him and also dump his body along with Sheena. That part has been talked about a lot earlier also. And this time, of course, we also have the statement of Mikhail for the first time where he himself is, expressing all the fear, and he says that perhaps they wanted to kill me as well. That, of course, is an additional part that will be breaking in a while. For the first time, Mikhail Bora's statement as a part of the charge sheet in the Sheena Bora case. But here, the more important part right now for us to understand is that, when CBI said, Tina, all of this while, that there have been phone calls and a lot of them exchanged between Indrani and Peter before, during and after the murder. So, and that their idea was that all of this while Indrani was talking to Peter about the conspiracy, about the planning and about wanting to kill both of these children of hers. Now, there was nothing to substantiate that because all you had were called records. You didn't have the transcripts, you didn't have the recording of those records. So CBI had a difficult time trying to prove that Peter actually knew about it. Now, here comes a statement from the man who has witnessed it all, the man who's a part of this murder, Shamba Rai, now who says that he overheard a conversation, and how a telling conversation that this is, when he says that she was wrecking the place, she was inspecting the place in the jungles of Raigad, she speaks to Peter then and she utters the word good place, and then she talks about Sheena and Mikhail. In what context was she talking to Peter about? Well, he says all of this conversation happened in English. The words, the important words, or I would say the operative words that he could catch, he has now mentioned before the CBI. What was this conversation all about? Indrani and Peter can only reveal, but much has now been told in terms of trying to establish the fact that Peter perhaps all of this while knew of the plan to kill Sheena and to kill Mikhail.
Yeah, you look at the charge sheet carefully today, Megha. Several points emerge as we bring in all our guests into the discussion as well. Swapnil Kothari, corporate lawyer, marketing partner of Kothari and Company, joining us live from our studios in Mumbai. Abha Singh, advocate, social activist, joining us live from our studios in Mumbai. Ujjwal Nikam, special public prosecutor, live from Mumbai this evening. T.R. Kakkar, former police commissioner from Delhi, he's live with us. And Ashish Dixit, he's a lawyer, also live from Delhi. Simi, Chandoke, editor-in-chief, Lifestyle and Society, Zoom TV, live from our studios here in Mumbai. But to you first, Mr. Ujjwal Nikam, I don't know if these details were, had emerged in the past. If you look at the second supplementary charge sheet and what Shamba Rai in his statement, it's a statement that we've accessed this evening. And I think that one line where he said, we went there with the intention of looking for a spot to bury or burn Sheena and Mikhail's bodies after killing them. I was driving the car and Madam was sitting on the rear seat and speaking to Peter over the phone, referring to a place she said was a nice place. I think all of those defending Peter Mukerjea so far in the case, I don't know if there's any defense left for Peter if you look at the second charge sheet in detail today. Mr. Nikam.
Niranjan, I just carefully gone through the... Yes, Niranjan, I just carefully gone through the statement as Megha has reproduced it. Now, let me tell you three facts. The first important fact, that this case entirely rests upon the circumstantial evidence. And therefore, the prosecution as well as the investigating agency are under legal obligation to rely upon the various circumstances which would connect the accused with the crime. Now, secondly, when the CBI has recorded the statement of driver, Mr. Rai, who has been subsequently turned as an approver. Now, law says that approver is unworthy of credit because he is a self-confessed traitor. But even then, law says that approver evidence, if it is corroborated in material aspect, then he can be relied upon and the conviction is not illegal because it proceeds upon the uncorroborated or corroborated testimony of an approver.
Ujjwal Nikam,
No doubt, Mr. Rai
I just want to intervene here just to get some clarity on one point. Now, you're talking about corroboration. Does it have to be in terms of physical material evidence, or can it be corroboration with someone else's statement? Because if you see what Mikhail Bora's statement is, that actually ties in completely with what Shamba Rai is saying, because Shamba Rai is saying that Mikhail and Sheena, both their names were being taken. Why were they being taken? Because I thought that the plan was to kill them both. Now, Mikhail actually does also say something along the same lines, and that's another person whose statement is tying in with what Shamba Rai says. We'll be bringing the details of that statement to our viewers in just a bit, but just quickly your thoughts on that before we get the others in.
Tina, I'm aware of that fact, whatever you have now said, but now we have to critically examine the driver's statement also from two aspects. Whether he has improved his story, this is the first thing, because it appears from the statement which you have just now read, that aaj wapas phir main batata hu. That is the third statement, because the police must have recorded a first statement, then later on the CBI has again interrogated him, and thereafter his judicial confession. I think first confession has been recorded. So one will require to examine minutely that driver's statement is consistent, driver's claim is consistent in all throughout in the three statement or not. This is the first important. If it is a consistent and if there is a material corroboration, then this is the very clinching evidence against the accused person. This is the first aspect. Now, so far as the charge sheet, what it discloses, and of course the CBI has relied upon the interview of Mr. Arnab also. I don't know actually what to what line Mr. Arnab has interviewed Mr. Peter, but when CBI has relied upon its interview, it means CBI would like to rely upon that interview also, because perhaps Mr. Peter Mukerjea must have given certain confession, so far as that is an extrajudicial confession, and that is the reason why the CBI has relied upon. And the most important third aspect is that reveals from the papers of the third charge sheet, whatever that I have read in the just now in the news, that it explains the conduct of the accused, that is the Peter Mukerjea. Because once why Sheena Bora was killed, that is the important question. What was the motive? And in circumstantial evidence, motive plays a very important role. And therefore, if investigating agency has reached to certain aspect that this is perhaps the motive, because it is quite possible the Sheena certain property must have been in the name of Sheena, and therefore she must not be handing over that property to her parents or Indrani, etc. And that may be the one of the reason. And when the CBI is relying upon Mr. Arnab's interview, and certainly CBI can rely upon the conduct of the accused as to how he is telling lies and all this. So I think this is all the important circumstances which have been collected. Prima facie it appears to me, because I have not gone through the entire third charge sheet, but certainly CBI has done some wonderful job, I can say, at this stage.
Well, Mr. Nikam, this is Megha Prasad here. If you can hear me, this one question that I would like to ask you. Well, when you're talking about the motive, Mr. Nikam, I must just let you know, CBI has said in the court that they are investigating this matter further. So we believe that there's going to be a fourth charge sheet, because the motive has not been elaborated upon much this time. Perhaps they'll have more on the financial angle in the next charge sheet, that if at all it comes. Now, my question to you, Mr. Nikam, here is this. Because you're a lawyer of repute, and I want to understand this legal point from you. The statement that we are putting out today, Mr. Nikam, of Shamba Rai, who earlier, of course, has turned an approver in this case, the statement that today has been made a part of the charge sheet has been signed by Mr. KK Singh, who happens to be the IO in this case. This is not perhaps under Section CRPC 164, which it was earlier. The first statement that he gave was a confessional statement, and it was before the magistrate. Hence, I want to understand, Mr. Nikam, to what extent will this particular statement now be regarded as an important evidence in the court of law? Will this be admissible, because again it's been it's given before the CBI?
Megha, you are certainly right in raising this query for two reasons. Firstly, I already explained the legal position about the position of an approver, that is an accomplice in a criminal trial. Because you are aware that I have conducted number of cases wherein the police have made number of the approvers, and we have successfully sought the conviction. But I have a little apprehension, Megha, because just you have pointed out on the screen that aaj wapas main behan de raha hu. This is something strange. Because the moment Dinkar, that Roy was
Ujjwal,
arrested,
Nikam,
the local police must have interrogated him.
I just want to
and
add
his
to that
statement must have been under section 160.
He also talks about, he also says, I wasn't asked about this aspect earlier, hence my earlier statement does not contain these details. So I think that answers your question to some extent. There is probably a little bit of difference or some changes or some improvements in the statements, and we'll get Megha in on that particular angle in just a minute. I want to bring the others in because let's get the first reactions now. Swapnil, Kothari, Abha Singh, let's start with you. Abha Singh, what do you make of this statement from Sheena Bora, which very clearly talks about the fact that Peter knew about the murder, that madam was talking to Peter throughout, she was looking at places, she was telling him on the phone that this is a good place, and she kept mentioning both Sheena and Mikhail. First impressions from that, Abha Singh.
One thing is good place for what? That is what the defense lawyer is going to say. Secondly, these secondary charge sheet, another charge sheet, you know, it will question the integrity of the investigation, that why CBI is not being able to do the investigation in one go, and that is what the defense is going to take up. Thirdly, for Sheena Bora, he was arrested on an arms case, and that itself questions the motive of the police, that whether this was a genuine arrest or this was put on him to make this case. So this case is going to be a real case to watch for the lawyers and the prosecution. But nonetheless, on circumstantial evidence, Arushi's case was convicted. Arushi murder case was totally based on circumstantial evidence. So these emails, evidences are going to be a critical part, but nonetheless, they will be the secondary part as per 65B of the Indian Evidence Act.
Yeah, I think we'll quickly do a quick round of summary from all of our guests. And Swapnil, I'll come to you next. Isn't this significant because, so far we thought Indrani Mukerjea was the main plotter. But it now turns out it's not just her, but Peter Mukerjea and even Sanjeev Khanna, who are in the car. Sanjeev was in the car, and we have proof now, or at least claims made by the approver, that she made calls and Peter Mukerjea was on the phone line throughout.
Right. Well, the fact remains that Sheena Bora's statements about BIT being a good place, I beg to differ a little bit with Abha here, that obviously they're not talking about good place to sit and have tea.
Yeah.
But, naturally, coupled with the several emails, threatening emails that the father sends to his own son. And that clearly points to the fact that there is something amiss and something afoot. So it's not only the father here who's, threatening the son, but along with Indrani, also the father is ensuring that the son loses the trail or loses the trail of Sheena, is not bogged down with that, of hunting Sheena at all. Yeah. So that clearly shows that there is some money issue here. Yeah. There is some disinheritance issue. And why should a father be so much concerned about the fact that his, this daughter, who's not his, what is the problem if Sheena marries Rahul?
Absolutely. Let's get into all our other guests as well. Simi, quickly, 30 seconds. Let's summarize. Let's get the first comments from all of our guests, and we'll take this forward. I think we have some more breaking news with Megha Prasad. Simi, your observations when Sheena Bora finishes off his statement by saying, I was not asked about this aspect earlier. Hence, my earlier statement doesn't contain these details. Obviously, he knew about it all along, but now he's singing.
I don't think that I would really think his statement is suspect or has a motive right now, because it's not just his statement that we are discussing here or that has been used by the CBI, Niranjan. Yeah. There have been other, evidences, like there are emails, there is Mikhail statements, there are Rahul statements, and these are people who are like who are their biological children. So what are we even talking about? This case is not dependent on one driver alone. There are their children involved who have emails that are put out there.
Absolutely.
But one very
exactly. I just want to add to what Simi said, because I think that's really important, especially to respond to what you were saying, Swapnil, Kothari. The fact is, yes, here there is a son who's questioning his father. Don't forget, there's also a son who is accusing his mother of wanting to murder him. Let's not forget, Mikhail Bora's statement is equally important, if not more, because he talks about the fact that he knew that his mother was trying to murder him, and he tried to get away from the spot. He fled from the spot because he knew something was amiss. Okay, let's quickly get Ashish, Dixit, and then TR Kakkar.
Let's quickly
what do you make of what we put forth so far?
No, see, I just want to make a very small point. See, we are on the point, this case is a case of circumstantial evidence. So in order to proceed further, the prosecution has to make a chain which is so conclusive in nature that there is no other hypothesis except that the accused is guilty. In my view, in this case, that chain is not complete. And number two, as far as this statement of this driver is concerned, in his third statement, he realizes that Indrani was talking to Peter, and which was regarding the murder of the deceased.
Ashish, where do you think it's missing?
Creates enough doubt on his statement, and which, in my opinion,
Ashish, why do you think it's
missing,
incomplete?
See, it's missing that you have a witness, you have a I will. See, here is a witness who claims that he was an eyewitness to the offense. In his third statement to CBI, which I don't know which was obtained under what circumstances, he says that all these things have happened. In my understanding, this statement will not stand in court of law, because when he was giving a statement under 164, was he not aware of these facts? And as he says that because they are asking me, that then only I am saying this.
Okay, let me
creates a lot of confusion into the matter. That what are the
Ashish, let me put that question to TR Kakkar. Let me put that question to TR Kakkar. Ashish, quickly, let me put that to TR Kakkar and let him give his opening comments, and I'll tell you why that missing, you spoke about a missing link. I'll tell you why there's no missing link anymore. We have another bit of breaking news, but TR Kakkar first, your observation. How do you summarize the development, sir?
Talking of this third statement of the driver, I would only say that there are two major issues which the defense will probably make whole. One is that he's saying that मैं पुनः ये statement देना चाहता हूँ. The second is he says that वो निखिल और शीना का नाम ले रहे थे. Look, anybody who has to do anything of this sort will not keep repeating the names of the people who are to be killed. So there is a lot more will be required to see that this statement has some value, this statement has some strength, it has to be corroborated by something else.
But he was part of the plot, Mr. Kakkar. Mr. Kakkar, she was obviously naming them.
Too much of these things.
Mr. Kakkar, she was obviously naming them. She was obviously naming them because the guy was part of the plot.
He may be naming them. She could have always said that look, अच्छी जगह है, वो ठीक हो जाएगा.
But why will she have anything to hide? Mr. Kakkar, there's nothing to hide. That's the point I'm trying to make.
This driver obviously.
Also the fact is, as you are saying, Mr. Kakkar, Swapnil Kothari said earlier that there is a requirement for other things to corroborate this. It's not just Shambar Rai's statement in totality. Just give me a minute, Mr. Kakkar, because you're talking about corroborating this with further evidence. Well, here's the further evidence. Let's in fact bring you details of Mikhail's statement now, because this is equally damning. This is the latest breaking that we're bringing to you here on the Newshour now. So Times has also accessed Mikhail Bora's statement to the CBI. Mikhail's statement has been quoted in the charge sheet, and this reveals that Mikhail was suspicious of Indrani. He started getting uncomfortable, and if I can just quote from the statement, he has specifically said that their behavior was not normal, all three of them. He's of course talking about Indrani, Shambar and Sanjeev Khanna as well. I was apprehensive that they were planning to kill me. It's as clear as that. He says, I was apprehensive they were planning to kill me after sedating me with some poisonous substance. And he talks about how he realized this was happening. He kept throwing the drinks that Indrani was giving him, and he actually fled from the spot. Now this is damning, and if you look at it in cohesion with what Shambar Rai has said, well, there is a story emerging here, is it not, Mr. Kakkar?
You see, that is perfectly all right, but the Nikhil's statement that he was likely to be poisoned and he was being administered poison, he threw the whole thing, ran away. You see, all these things could even be afterthoughts, and therefore a very strong corroborative statements will have to be found elsewhere. Just to say that I threw the glass and because I knew that they are going to poison me,
no, but all the
does not really carry any weight. By itself, it does not carry any weight.
Mr. Kakkar, that's the point. What I'm saying, Tina and Niranjan is, and Mr. Kakkar on to the other panelists, is that you just cannot take one statement by itself. You have to marry all the statements. There are enough links to the chain that point out to the culpability of Peter and Indrani.
So
first of all, there was
interlinked.
Absolutely. Now, first of all, one has to read the charges that are levied against Indrani. The first charge itself is section 34, which is common intention. Common intention cannot take place just with one person. It has to be common between several people. So logically, the fact remains that there are several people involved in this. There is a recce of the place that is being done. There are several emails, threatening emails to one's own children to that effect, that we shall disinherit you, etc., whatever. So there is a property angle to the case, and why should why Indrani should have a problem with the fact that if her daughter marries Rahul, that means that if she were to marry Rahul, Rahul was going to get some major part of the inheritance from the father. And if he was going to get that part of the inheritance, she did not want Sheena at all to have that. That means there is some monetary angle. There is something, since the fact remains, primarily this case revolves around circumstantial evidence. That's why the motive is becoming clearer and clearer. There can
but
be
you have proof of
there is no motive why Peter was interested in killing
No, I'm sorry, the motive has been established in this charge sheet. Motive has been established.
We are on the specific point whether this traditional statement made by Mr. Rai can be relied upon or not. That is the basic question, Mr. Kothari.
Okay, let's get the details. Let's get the details from Megha first. Megha, the details on Mikhail's statement. Let's get the details out.
Tell you very frankly,
picking on some of these points. Yeah, coming to you. Ujjwal, Nikam, coming to you. Megha Prasad, the details from Mikhail's statement.
Yeah, Mr. Nikam, coming to you next. Mr. Nikam, coming to you next. Coming to you next, one small bit of information from Megha.
Well, what we have again is the statement of Sheena Bora that we have accessed, and I'll show you the statement, the front page of the statement of Sheena Bora, and this for the first time. The first time, in all of these charge sheets, 3 that we have seen in the Sheena Bora case. This is for the first time that you're hearing an account from Sheena. Sheena happens to be, of course, one of the most important people when it came to this entire episode of killing Sheena Bora, and perhaps a plan of killing Sheena as well. So what I showed you, again, this copy of Sheena's statement, the Times Now is exclusively accessed. I'll just take you to the important parts that he states in his statement. Again, Niranjan, for the first time, nobody has an access to the statement of Sheena till now. He says, and I'm just quoting him from the day of 24th, I beg your pardon, 24th of April. He says that, of course, he's been flown down to Mumbai from Guwahati on the insistence of Indrani. And if I'm going to read out this particular statement, he says, and I'm quoting when he says he's already inside the Marlow bungalow. He says that after 10 to 15 p.m., Indrani came holding one bottle in her hand. Indrani asked me about my stay in Delhi and job in the airlines. After exchanging some talks, she offered an all-alcohol drink, and I took 1 or 2 pegs. I became suspicious from the activities of Indrani, hence I was feeling uncomfortable. Shamvarai came back with the food along with Sanjeev Khanna and talked to Indrani in isolation. Further, when Indrani sent Sanjeev Khanna to the balcony side of the flat, I became sure that something was wrong going to happen with me. So I tried to strengthen my energy and senses and started throwing the pegs offered to me by Indrani. He goes on to actually say is that after some time, Indrani went outside and she was talking to Sanjeev, and thereafter Sanjeev and Shamvarai went from the flat. Then he says that all that entire night, he said, I could not sleep, but Indrani kept requesting that I should put myself to sleep. And what he's trying to say is that I just gathered all my energy to ensure that I do not sleep, because then he was suspecting that something could be done to him. He then says that on 24th of April 2012, I was not aware that Indrani, Shyam and Sanjeev Khanna had killed Sheena. However, the behavior of all 3 of them was not normal. They were forcing me to eat and drink. I was apprehensive that they were planning to kill me too after sedating me with some poisonous substances.
Megha.
That's why Indrani had called me from Guwahati, keeping in mind the sequence of events and their behavior on the night of 24th of April 2012. I'm of the view that they had killed Sheena before my arrival to the Marlow bungalow.
Yeah.
There goes the statement of Mikhail for the first time.
Well, no, but you know, you speak about, you're not convinced. Along with T.R. Kakkar, you're not convinced. No, one second.
Why did he keep quiet? His thing is totally
He
changed.
left
No,
Mumbai
not yet,
and
not
headed
yet.
to Kolkata.
The defense is going to tear it apart.
No, but why? So you say that motive has not been established, but the moment you...
No, why did Mikhail keep quiet when he says that he felt
can I
that his
come
sister
in?
has been
Can I
killed?
come in?
Why did
The
he not
charge
go to
sheet-
the police?
the charge sheet-
Mikhail has said he did not go to the police because his mother had threatened to cut off the financial supply to him.
See,
Exactly.
And he's been saying that from day one, in fact.
For a pittance, you don't go for your sister. This itself shows the character of Mikhail. He is a person
He was not
whose words
sure.
cannot be
No,
relied
but he was
upon.
not sure
No,
where
no, it
Sheena
is-
was. When
his
he
statement
landed
is
in Mumbai,
tainted.
he was not sure where Sheena was at that moment. He was not sure. He left the next day. He left the next day.
What stopped him from filing a case in Assam? If he was carrying his... See, these are the loopholes which are going to help the defense tear these...
But at the time, he obviously didn't know what has happened, so that's why he returned to Calcutta.
If his statement says
What
that he
we are
felt that the sister had
discussing is
died.
the murder committed by Indrani combined with Peter and Khanna. If we are not discussing here the drinks offered or what sort of drinks were offered.
Exactly,
If
it's
he
all
was so
story.
suspicious.
Yes.
He was so suspicious.
I
Why
could-
didn't he go away?
Exactly.
Why was he
Why
there
did
on
he
the
not go to the
24th
police?
also?
Okay, Ms. Abha Singh, if I could... Ms. Abha Singh, if I can come in right now, and if you can hear my question. Ms. Singh.
It is only an afterthought. It is only an
All right, Ms. Singh, I'm going to go ahead with my question. Just hear me out.
Statements.
But you know, just
Mr.
to point,
Nikam,
just 1 minute, Megha. I mean, Tina, I can entirely agree with you. If my 2 meals a day depend upon my, upon the two gentlemen who are providing me the financial assistance, that is Peter and Indrani, I'm definitely going to think twice before spilling the beans
Then how
or before
can you
going.
believe that now Mikhail is speaking the truth? If his character is that, how do you expect that now he's speaking the
Yeah.
truth?
What's
not a
happened?
question of
He
character.
knows that there's something untoward. He knows that there's something going on. He's not exactly sure what it is.
If you say-
And he
Why
starts
would
asking
Peter
his
want to
mother
kill
about
Mikhail
Sheena's
is the question
disappearance.
which
She says,
CBI
if you're
needs
going to
to
ask me
answer.
any more questions along this line, I'm going to cut off your financial support. That sounds like reason enough for someone like Mikhail Bora to stop asking these
Also-
questions.
But that
No, no,
shows
but-
Mikhail
but-
Bora's character also. Then now,
But-
how do you believe what he's saying?
But
is
Abha-
truth? Maybe again it is a motivated
No,
statement.
Abha,
which
you look at the charge sheet today. Look at the charge sheet today.
That's what
Narendra,
I'm
I
saying.
think we need
These
to ask
statements
Ms.
are
Abha.
ripped
I'll give you
apart.
two arguments.
For the
These
defense to
statements
prove.
are
Abha,
going to be ripped apart. It's going to be a cakewalk for the
I'll give you
defense.
two arguments, okay? One, in the same chart sheet, it says Sheena was sent an SMS by Mikhail. Indrani forced Mikhail to send that SMS, threatening that if you don't sever your relationship with Rahul, we will make sure that you have no stake, no say in the property. We will disinherit you from the property and money angle. One, you spoke about how the motive has not been established. Consider this. If you finalize a motive, you're closing the door on all the other all the other possible motives. One. Secondly, you look at the relationship angle, right? The disapproval of the relationship can't be the only motive for the murder. It's not. Obviously, there's a bigger angle involved, and that's the point that we're trying to make. And you can't expect the CBI to zero in on one motive and go behind that. Even if there is, they're not going to make it public.
See, if the money trail is there, I don't think this secondary charge sheet talks of that at all.
I think the
I'm
secondary-
sure at least there'll be
makes us-
so many parents who would be threatening to disinherit their children. That is not something a big threat, because every second day if you are having a love marriage, the parents go and disinherit
Mr. Nikam, why are you laughing,
So
sir?
these are just very simple statements made
think-
by CBI.
All right, Mr. Even
You know,
Mr. Nikam finds it-
Mr. Nikam will have a
Mr.
very
Nikam
tough
finds it
time.
amusing.
Mr.
I don't
Nikam
know.
will have a very tough time
No.
to prove
Abha
this
Singh
case.
No, Mr. Nikam is
right now.
feeling
Ms.
bad
Abha
for
Singh,
you.
if you can hear me.
It's a faulty
Ms.
charge
Singh,
sheet.
can you
will
hear
have a
me?
tough time to prove the case.
All right, Ms. Singh,
Yeah,
one
okay,
question
let-
to
let
you.
Megha-
One question
Megha's
to you,
been
Ms.
asked.
Singh. I mean, you are a lawyer. If I
Abha,
want
the
to...
Supreme Court-
Mr. Nikam, just
It's a
one
tough
second.
case
Mr.
for
Nikam,
you, Mr.
one second. Let me ask this one question to Ms. Abha Singh. This one question
Abha, you
to
must
Ms.
have
Abha
some
Singh.
patience.
That Ms. Abha Singh, had you been a defense lawyer in this case, just tell me one thing. We are talking of circumstantial evidences here. Ms. Singh, two things I put before you right now in the last half an hour. One was the statement of Shamba Rai, where he talks about a certain conversation on 23rd of April of 2012. And then I give you a statement of Mukerjea, again of 24th of April 2012. And see how in the context on 23rd, the driver talks about killing both Sheena and Mukerjea. He clearly says that there was a plan to kill both of them. And on 24th, you have Mukerjea saying that on his own that there was an attempt to kill him. Both put both of these statements together, Ms. Abha, saying if you were a defense lawyer, would you have not made a strong case out of this? You would have used this to your advantage totally, completely, wouldn't you?
See, the very fact, the way Shambar Rai was arrested in an arms case, I am going to blow that apart. That a driver having an arms, that means
there's no point going back to how Shambar Rai was arrested, Ms. Singh. How does it matter in this case? It doesn't matter right now at all.
No, but how does it matter?
That means I am going to question whether the driver was arrested for
That's completely an unrelated matter, Ms. Abha, saying it doesn't matter how the driver was arrested. Here we are talking of the evidences that have been produced in the court.
This case, place that arms thing on pressure, to pressure the driver, to put pressure on the driver by making a false arms case. That is what, as a defense, I am going to argue.
It's completely
no, that is not correct.
Doesn't matter.
You're making a point.
Megha.
Yes, Mr. Nikam, go on.
Yes, Tina, let me tell you very frankly, amongst your all panelists, I can vouch that I am the only person who had conducted number of the criminal cases wherein I have taken the evidence of an approver. This is the first thing. Second thing which I would like to tell you, that approver, even if approver makes an amendment in his statement to the various investigating agency, it doesn't make any difference. The only thing is that the prosecuting agency will require to adduce the corroborative evidence in support of the additional improvement made by an approver. And secondly, the investigating agency and the prosecuting agency will require to give the reasons as to why the approver did not make this statement earlier. This is human memory is fallible. The Supreme Court has said that after tendering pardon to the approver becomes more free and he can give the more voluntary statement disclosing the detailed plan of the criminal conspiracy. So I don't agree with Abha, I don't agree with Mr. Kakkar, and I don't agree with the other your panelists, the lawyer. The only thing is that Abha just listen. Abha just listen carefully now. Now the only thing is that is the legal thing that the prosecuting agency will require to adduce the corroborative evidence. Now one thing is required to be kept in mind. Abha just listen carefully. Abha, you are in a very bad habit not to listen of the other members. This is very bad habit to you. Please listen carefully. You are a lawyer. I was just listening you for a long time. So Abha, just listen very carefully.
Fine.
Now Abha, the point which I am raising here, that when the CBI in the third charge sheet had relied upon the various circumstances, that completely shows the conduct, and the conduct is relevant under section 8 of the Indian Evidence Act. It speaks about the reflection of the guilty mind. When Mr. Arnab had taken interview of Mr. Peter, then Mr. Peter lied certain things, and how he had lied that the CBI has collected other contemporary record and the evidence also on the record. So now it will be the scrutiny of an approver's evidence as to whether he had changed his version from time to time. If he had changed, what was the reason? Secondly, what other corroborative evidence has been collected by the CBI? So now it is the CBI's tough time to prove and to pass all the tests, and if it is passed the test safely, the approval evidence can be relied upon. Abha, you must be aware of this legal position. This is the first aspect. Now the second aspect, in the Bombay bomb blast case, I have made the approval. In other so many cases, I have made the approval, and approval have discharged, they have passed the test, and the Supreme Court has said, even if approver changes his statement, as Mr. Kakkar has said, that he can be disbelieved. No, I don't agree with him, because the Supreme Court has said that after giving the immunity of no prosecution, approver comes out with more things, he gives more voluntary statement, and only the court will require to examine.
He also makes
now, so far the motive in this case is concerned, CBI is trying to collect certain evidence aspects, and certainly those aspects which will connect the accused with the crime. So I think that at present, instead of criticizing and commenting upon the approval statement, we have to see what CBI has collected other corroborative material.
Okay, I'm going to get
Mr. Nikam, I entirely agree with you, Mr. Kothari here. I entirely agree with you on the 133B, 133 and 114B, where you have to corroborate the material particulars of the approver. Just because he's turned approver doesn't mean that we don't rely upon him. or we earlier used to rely upon him, or now we should not rely upon him because it's his third statement or fourth statement. What we have to see is whether any additional evidence has been adduced by the prosecution to corroborate the statement of the approver, and we have to test it, and we have to test it on that anvil. So I entirely agree with you with that.
Swapnil, Swapnil, what we'll do is, okay, Tina, and to all our panelists, what we're going to do right now, to convince Abha and I think Mr. Kakkar and Ashish, what we're going to do is we're going to talk about the chart sheet, the 200 to 300 page chart sheet in 6 parts over the next 1 hour. Okay? We're going to take it part by part and we will convince you, it's not us, but the chart sheet details. We will talk about it in detail. Part 1, we will talk about, Tina, how Peter was told of the murder plot and what CBI has said in the chart sheet. Let's talk about what the CBI has said. Part 1. Further investigation has revealed that Indrani Mukerjea kept Peter Mukerjea informed on the phone about the selection of place for disposal of dead body of Sheena during the period of recce and selection of spot on the 23rd of April 2012. So what happens is, Abha, what happens is, before I go to you, I mean, let me get in TR Kakkar. Mr. Kakkar, what happens is from blind lover, that's the term, that's the phrase that Peter Mukerjea used. From being a blind lover, what he's essentially become is a he was consulted. He was an expert. He said, yes, go ahead with it. If you look at what Shamvara has said, you look at what CBI has said, and look at what he told Times Now when he spoke to Arnab. He said, I was a blind lover. He wasn't just a blind lover, he was consulted before the murder.
I did not say that this will not be admissible. I am only saying that, look, he has made different statements. And as Mr. Nikam has said, all right, it is okay for the approver to make different statements at different times. But a lot more corroborative evidence will be needed to prove and to link up these issues. And I only hope the CBI has all that material evidence so that the statements can be linked up. Now, once again, coming back to the third statement, this man says that they were picking up they were wrecking this place where the bodies could be dumped, and that again and again they were saying Sheena and Nikhil. Look, any conspirator who is who knows that he doesn't have to keep revealing the names of people, revealing the things that they're going to do, and even as we say, दीवारों के भी कान होते हैं, so how do they rely so much on the driver and keep discussing everything? So this statement of the driver has to be taken with a pinch of salt, unless we have a very strong corroborative evidence to prove it.
Yeah, but but also, just going back to Simi on this now. Simi, TR Kakkar says that this statement has to be taken with a pinch of salt. But again, it ties in with the fact that Peter Mukerjea repeatedly kept flip-flopping on his statements. Whether it was to us on that interview with Arnab, whether it was what he said initially, to the police, his statements kept flip-flopping and there was a lot of contradiction in what he said. So that also ties in with the fact that after all, he was trying to hide something. Why else would he keep changing what he was saying? Why was he flip-flopping on who Sheena was, what his relationship with Sheena was? Did he know whether Sheena was Indrani's daughter or not? He said he had talked to her on the phone. Later on, he said no, it wasn't her. It was in fact Indrani's secretary who spoke to me.
That definitely is a lie.
So all these flip-flops and U-turns, they meant something, right, Simi?
He can really be questioned.
Inconsistencies in Peter Mukerjea's statements over the last 1 year. He claimed to be a man in love. He claimed to be lonely and failing.
Ashish, next.
He has also claimed.
You are saying that he is guilty. What about the witness who has made 3 different statements? So can you rely on a witness of this kind?
Well, you just had an expert tell you.
No. There are additions. Let Simi conclude her point, please. Ashish will come to you next. Let her conclude her point. Yeah, Simi, please.
So, this is a man who claimed that he was failing and lonely because he wanted to make a comeback to media and he wanted people to feel sorry for him and support him. Here is a man who had claimed at that time that he wanted to move back to India, and after his move to India, there were problems between him and Indrani Mukerjea. But he is the same man who went on record to say many many times that he's a man in love and that he was completely and madly in love with Indrani. Do we see the inconsistencies here? I mean, it's very obvious that he is completely shifting from one stand to the other when it comes to Indrani. I feel that he has manipulated Indrani into committing this terrible, terrible crime and has manipulated his children, her children, their children.
There are so many inconsistencies like Tina was pointing out. And Ashish, I'll bring you in at this point. What he told Times Now in an interview, this was August 27, 2015, and I'm reading out what Peter Mukerjea told Times Now. He spoke to Arnab. He said, it was Sheena sometime in 2011 who herself revealed her identity as Indrani's daughter. Contrast this to the first interview of Peter Mukerjea. There was an interview on the 26th of August, a day before that, 2 times now. And in that interview, he said, Sheena is not her sister, she is her daughter, but I dismissed it at the time because I didn't know that was true. And I said, look, Indrani has told me that it's not true and obviously I believe my wife. So one day later there was an inconsistency.
That is a lie, total lie.
Yeah, we spotted it the next day. His stand changed the next day.
He may have lied. Please understand, the law is that an accused may take a different stand, but that will not give benefit to the prosecution till the time prosecution is able to stand on its own feet. It cannot rely upon a different stand taken by accused. You are saying that just because Mr. Mukerjea has taken a stand which are contrary in nature, why don't you see the witness, the prime witness, that is the driver, he has given different statements. He took years to realize
Ashish,
that in his third statement he says, yes, the madam was looking for a spot, and he says
completely contradictory statements. You're talking about the approver perhaps adding to his statement.
That doesn't matter. That doesn't matter.
No, but there's a difference. So you can't equate the two things.
The role of accused to defend himself only comes
it's not as if Shambhar Rai's statement has completely flipped or it has changed entirely. What he's done is in fact added to it.
That the accused has taken this stand on a news channel. Do you believe that prosecution will be able to take benefit of this thing, that the accused has taken a different stand on a television channel? I am sorry, this is not going to happen in a court of law. The prosecution has to stand on its own feet, it has to prove the case, and unfortunately with this evidence, the evidence which we have in front of
Swapnil wants to counter you, Ashish.
In the
Swapnil wants to counter you.
Driver,
Ashish.
And that statement has no value.
Swapnil.
Ashish, it's not just this inconsistency of Peter Mukerjea before the news channel or before Arnab. That is not the point. That is not the point. That has to be married with the fact that there are several tapes which had come out, a month ago. At that point in time, there was a statement by the father to the son that what if Sheena were to vanish one day, to the son. You marry that statement with the several inconsistencies before the news channel, before the police, before the magistrate, with the several emails that are being brought out into evidence by the CBI. I do not know if there is going to be a third supplementary charge sheet or fourth one in the future. You have to look at all the things
Even then, if I take whatever you are saying, sir, is completely correct. The prosecution in this case is not able to prove a complete chain. That's the fundamental issue. It may be a good story
what
to be
we're
run
trying
on
to
air,
say.
but it is
Ashish,
exactly
what we're trying to say is exactly the opposite, that if you look at any of these elements in just that element, then it may not to you seem like it's anything concrete. But as we are trying to put together all these various angles here, when you look at them together, there is a clear picture emerging. There is no doubt about it. As you know, as was just mentioned, the fact that Rahul was being discouraged from this relationship. In fact, his father even asking him questions like, what would you do if she just disappeared?
No, may I say one fundamental issue
one second.
of law,
So we'll come
which
to
is very important
many of
in this
these,
case,
and that's
is
exactly what we're trying to do here. We're trying to show all the details, all the details of the charge sheet, which are putting a picture together. I'm going to move on, Niranjan. I'm going to move on to the element number 2. I'm going to look at the second angle that we are talking about, which is the property angle. Right? Now, the property angle is really important here because, as mentioned before, in a case where circumstantial evidence is really the only evidence, motive becomes absolutely prime. Now, it's very clear this is emerging as the motive. And I'm quoting from the charge sheet here. Indrani used Mikhail Bora to separate Sheena Bora and Rahul Mukerjea. She asked Mikhail to send SMS to Sheena in order to force her to break up with Rahul, but Sheena, of course, as we know, did not comply. One such SMS from Indrani was forwarded by Mikhail to Sheena, threatening her that she would be disinherited from the property. Why was Indrani so against this relationship with Rahul, and where does the property angle come in? Let's go across to our colleague Kajal now, who has more details on this. Kajal, it's very clear over all the months and more than a year of this case, the property angle has really emerged as the number one motive possibility.
Yes, in fact, the property was also used as a bargaining chip in the various interactions that Indrani had with, be it Mikhail, be it Sheena. It was always used as something to try and intimidate them, to tell them that, look, if you don't agree to what I'm saying, if you don't do exactly as what I say, you will be disinherited from the property, you will not be given any share. It was not just this particular property. When Sheena refused to break up from Rahul, there was a set of houses in Delhi which was transferred immediately to Vidhi's name. Then she also influenced her mother, Durga Rani Bora, to change the will at the last moment and to not include Sheena Bora in the Guwahati property. All of these machinations were going on, and at the same time, we also need to remember that one of the main aims that came across in the first charge sheet itself of Indrani was that all the property that she would get through her marriage to Peter, she wanted all of it to go to Vidhi, which is why silently each of the properties were made into a gift deed and sent to given to Vidhi. And so the aim was that Sheena should never inherit any of the property, because if she marries Rahul, she would inherit some of the property, and perhaps Indrani was trying to see to it that once she would try and get all of the property only to Vidhi and not to the sons of Peter from an earlier marriage.
Yeah, would you, and Abha, that question is to you. You look at this development, and there's a clear indication in the charge sheet that there was disapproval also on the part of Peter Mukerjea as far as Sheena Bora and Rahul coming together are concerned. So one, it raises questions whether the relationship was a motive for the murder. One, there is direct proof to sort of believe that yes, Peter was never against the relationship. That could have been one of the reasons. That could have been one of the motives. But you look at the property angle, and this could be the smoking gun, that everyone has been talking about. Of course, the full details are not out yet, but this was used as a bargaining chip, like Kajal was saying. Or are you not convinced?
See, property angle, a flat, a person who has property more than 1,000 crores, it looks a little bizarre that for one flat you murder your daughter.
No, but it's not about one flat. How do you know it's about one flat?
That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. The CBI has to come with the facts. Where is the money trail? Till now, even in the second charge sheet, no trail has come. That money, that's what it was all over the channels, that the money has gone to Singapore, Bangkok, and they are trying to track that money, and Sheena was not giving the money, and that's why she was murdered. So these are the things which are there on the channels, very good. But at the time of trial, you require solid proof, you require corroborative evidence to prove
You spoke about a flat. How do you know that she didn't have other properties in her name?
No,
and that was used to blackmail someone. I'm just saying, you said it's a flat. I'm asking you a question.
What you say that they would disinherit her, there was not, when her grandparents did not have so much property. Assam, I'm told, was just one big house.
Yeah, so, there's also a story about how she eventually started funding them, because they saw a photograph of Peter Mukerjea and Indrani in the newspaper, and she agreed to look after the or to finance the kids and their education on the condition that they do not reveal their identity.
Of course, those facts are perfect. That Indrani did not want Sheena to marry Rahul, but Sheena was also her daughter, so was Vidhi. So they have to prove this also, that why one daughter at the cost of the other daughter. This is a very glaring loophole which nobody has been able to
We have four more arguments. We have 4 more arguments to puncture that loophole. Let me take a very small break, Swapnil. Take a very small break. We're going to the don't contact list that Peter put out for Rahul. So essentially what Peter Mukerjea has done, Tina, has given a list of contacts to Rahul and said, don't dare get in touch with them. That email is with us